Another type of personality disorder is a dependent personality disorder. These are people that are very needy. They rely on attention and the help of others. They elicit the caregiving of others by acting very dependent, like they're very needy, and by very submissive behavior. These are the people that constantly ask for help making decisions, what classes to take, clothes to wear. They constantly need your advice and reassurance. It is described as often as an excessive need to be taken care of that leads to clinging behavior as well as extreme fears of separation. This pattern begins by early adulthood and is present in a variety of contexts. The dependent and submissive behaviors are designed to elicit caregiving and arise from a self-perception of being unable to function adequately without the help of others. These people feel like they cannot function without the help of other people. So they're almost like learned helplessness. Individuals with dependent personality disorder have great difficulty making everyday decisions, such as whether or not it's going to rain and they need an umbrella, what shirt to wear, things like that. They need an excessive amount of advice and reassurance from others. They also tend to be passive and allow other people, often a single other person, to take the initiative and assume responsibility for most of the major areas of their lives. Adults with this disorder typically depend on a parent or spouse to decide where they should live, what kind of job they should have, and which neighbors to befriend. Adolescents with this disorder may allow their parents to decide what they should wear, with whom they should be friends, and how they should spend their free time, or even what school or college they should attend after graduation. Dependent personality disorder is just a reminder, it is people that really have a hard time functioning without other people making decisions for them. Histrionic personality disorder, these are the people that demand to be the center of attention. They might act silly, they might dress in a very sexy way, something that draws attention to themselves. Some people would say Lady Gaga exemplifies this disorder. It's a long-standing pattern of attention-seeking behavior and extreme emotionality. Someone with this disorder wants to be the center of attention in any group of people, and they begin to feel very uncomfortable when they are not. They're often lively, interesting, and sometimes dramatic. They have difficulty when people aren't focused exclusively on them. People with this disorder may be perceived as being shallow and may engage in sexually seductive or provocative behavior in order to draw attention to themselves. They may have trouble with same-sex friends because their sexual provocative behavior is seen as threatening to other people's relationships, or they may simply demand too much attention from their friends, and that causes problems with same-sex friends. So histrionic personality disorder, all eyes on me. That is their personality disorder. Narcissistic personality disorder is when people think extremely highly of themselves. They have a blown up vision of themselves where they feel that they are extremely important, more important than other people. People with narcissistic personality disorder think they're the center of the universe. They have a long-standing pattern of grandiosity, either in fantasy or actual behavior, an overwhelming need for admiration, and usually a complete lack of empathy towards others because they're so focused on themselves. People with this disorder often believe that they are of primary importance in everybody's life or to anyone that they meet. The difference between histrionic and narcissistic personality disorder is in histrionic, they like to just be the center of attention. They don't necessarily believe they're more important than everyone else. They just like to be the center of attention, and they do this with various means, being really provocative or very excitable or very dramatic. Narcissistic just believes they're more important than everyone else and that everyone should be paying attention to them because of that. Obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, not to be confused with OCD, is, while related, this is a personality disorder where people are obsessive, have an obsessive need for neatness, order, and symmetry. These are the people that are most likely to be called neat freaks or anal retentive. Everything has to be in order. They are not as extreme as OCD anxiety, but they are overly concerned with order and with certain thoughts and performing certain behaviors, but they don't have that anxiety, say, fear of germs. Their concern is they need everything to be neat and tidy at all times. And of course, this picture is an example of one of our favorite people that has this disorder. Borderline personality disorder. The main feature of borderline personality disorder, otherwise known as BPD, is a pervasive pattern of instability in interpersonal relationships, self-image, and emotions. People with borderline personality disorder are also usually very impulsive. So they have a lot of trouble with friendships and romantic relationships. They tend to have a lot of poor self-image. They are very unstable in their emotions. They fear abandonment. They're known for inappropriate bursts of anger. And again, they're very impulsive. They have a very hard time socially. So that's borderline personality disorder. The next type of major category in the DSM are the schizophrenic disorders. And about 1 in nearly 100 people develop schizophrenia, and 24 million people suffer from schizophrenia worldwide. Schizophrenia literally means split mind, and not that the mind is split, that the mind is split from reality. Children as young as 12 have developed symptoms, although the onset usually occurs in the late teens and early adult years. It affects males and females alike, but males tend to be struck earlier, more severely, and slightly more often. They may seem to strike suddenly. Others may emerge from a long history of social inadequacy. There are many symptoms of schizophrenia, but the 3 main ones are disorganized thinking, disturbed perceptions, and inappropriate emotions and actions. Disorganized thinking involves bizarre and distorted with false beliefs. The disorganized thinking from schizophrenia is the result of a breakdown of what we call selective attention. So basically, the schizophrenic's brain does not have the ability to take all of the sensory input that's coming in to the brain and to focus. And so they're all over the place. Their thinking is everywhere because it's processing all the sensory information, and it can't sort it and filter out the things that are not important. This can lead to delusions and false beliefs. So delusions are false beliefs. The 2 main categories of delusions are delusions of persecution. People are out to get you, conspiracy theories, things like that. Aliens are after you, things like that. Or delusions of grandeur. You're basically a god. You're a movie star. You are someone famous. Those are the 2 different main categories of delusions, although delusions can be all over the map. But those are the 2 big ones. People with disturbed perceptions, these are also known as hallucinations, basically see, hear, and smell things that are not there. Most often, these hallucinations are auditory or something they hear. Frequently, they hear voices that make insulting remarks at them or give orders, and they can be particularly terrifying. So these are sensory experiences that are not coming from any sensory stimulation. This is completely fabricated in the mind. Another aspect of schizophrenia are inappropriate emotions and actions. These are people that laugh at inappropriate times. They might laugh after being told of a loved one's death. The emotions are split off from the reality. They don't match the reality of the situation. They also may have what they call flat affect, which is they are emotionless. These are the people whose faces are blank slates. They often involve compulsive acts, like you'll see a schizophrenic scratching an arm, but there's no actual itch. They're just scratching because that's something they do. They may rock in a chair. So these are compulsive, senseless acts or behaviors. There's another aspect. They may be catatonic. If they're catatonic, they remain motionless for hours and then become agitated. Sometimes with catatonia, they have waxy flexibility, which is something I'll describe in a moment. With schizophrenia, we talk about positive versus negative symptoms. So positive symptoms involve the presence of inappropriate symptoms. So this is something added. So think positive, something added. So these are hallucinations. This is talking in disorganized and diluted ways. This is when they exhibit inappropriate laughter, tears, or rage. Negative symptoms, on the other hand, are the absence of appropriate behaviors. For example, they might have toneless voices, an expressionless face. They might be mute, or they might have a rigid body. What's interesting about this is that when schizophrenia is slow developing or considered chronic, recovery is doubtful. These tend to exhibit symptoms of withdrawal. These are people that have more of the negative symptoms. When schizophrenia is acute due to a particular life stressor, so the schizophrenia just suddenly, the person has schizophrenia or it develops extremely rapidly, the recovery is much more likely because acute schizophrenics are more likely to have positive symptoms. And so therefore they will respond to drug therapy because these symptoms often respond to drug therapy. Schizophrenia appears to have a genetic link. In studies, adopted children whose biological parents have schizophrenia, these children have an elevated risk of also developing schizophrenia. There are lots of theories about why schizophrenia occurs, although the actual cause is unknown. One interesting theory is that fetal virus infections may play a contributing role. For example, they see an increased rate of schizophrenia in women who develop the flu while pregnant. So this is one of the possible reasons why flu shots are recommended for pregnant women. We do know that schizophrenia is related to dopamine and glutamate in the brain. High levels of dopamine appear to create positive symptoms, and low levels of glutamate appear to create negative symptoms. So the drugs used to treat schizophrenia are based on dealing with these two neurotransmitters, dopamine and glutamate. Types of schizophrenia. The first type of schizophrenia is disorganized schizophrenia. This is diagnosed or described as having disorganized speech or behavior and flat or inappropriate emotion. These people are often known to have word salad. So their behavior, their words don't make any sense. They jump all over in their speaking. An example of this would be, imagine the words systematic, sympathetic, quite pathetic, apologetic, paramedic, your heart is prosthetic. That might be a line that a schizophrenic would say. It's all over the place. You think it's going in a certain direction and then it changes directions. That's called word salad. It's disorganized speech. Disorganized schizophrenia is considered a more severe type because people with this condition may be unable to carry out routine daily activities such as bathing and meal preparation because they can't stay focused. It is also very hard to understand what these people are saying, and as a result, there's a lot of frustration and agitation, and it causes them often to lash out. Second type of schizophrenia is paranoid schizophrenia. These people spend most of their time trapped in a preoccupation with delusions or hallucinations. They think that people are constantly out to get them. So this is also a very difficult type to treat. This next type of schizophrenia is one that we don't often think about when we think of schizophrenia. This is catatonic schizophrenia. This is people that have flat affect in terms that they don't show emotions. They exhibit waxy flexibility, which is a really interesting phenomenon. I'm actually going to show you a video clip of this after in the next class, but it is a psychomotor symptom which leads to decreased response to stimuli and a tendency to remain in an immobile posture. So if you were to take someone with waxy flexibility and would you move their arm from their lap up to shoulder height, when you let go of their arm would stay there frozen. It's as if they are made of wax, and it wouldn't move again until you moved it for them. So it's really fascinating, waxy flexibility. These people often may talk and behave in a bizarre, hyperactive way. So at one moment they're in a coma-like daze, unable to speak, move, or respond, or they'll flip into this bizarre behavior and talk, very hyperactive. These episodes can last, these catatonic episodes can last for a month or longer without treatment. So it can be very extreme. The fourth kind of schizophrenia is undifferentiated schizophrenia. And this is when the patient exhibits many and varied symptoms that don't fit clearly into one of the other categories. There's not enough of any one of them to define it as another particular type of schizophrenia. And these can be particularly hard to treat because they have both positive and negative symptoms. An interesting study about schizophrenia is the Rosenhan study. What's interesting about this study was that Rosenhan's associates showed malingering symptoms of hearing voices. So this scientist had a study where he sent people to emergency rooms complaining of hearing auditory hallucinations. They were all admitted